going on, everyone? My name's Encore, and this is your daily reminder that tomorrow never comes. What does that mean? That means that none of our tomorrows are guaranteed, so we need to get off our hands and do today what we're pushing off for some unknown date in the future. With me in this channel, that is all about crypto, okay, and the crypto space as a whole. And what I want to get into today is something a little bit different. So while I focus on crypto, and especially in when you look at things that are specific to the crypto space, the certain exchanges, the certain assets, all of that, I want to take a little different tack today. I understand that some or most of you who are watching this video have no experience with crypto whatsoever. So how do you go, and you may have investing experience, so maybe you're in the stock market. So how do you go from something that's regulated, highly normalized as a stock market to something that seems so wild and unregulated like crypto? So I kind of thought to myself, well, what is it that you could do that you're comfortable with, but still get exposure to the crypto market and the crypto space, right? Or the assets within it. And I'm going to stick today mainly only to Bitcoin. And reason being, it's tried, tested, and true. It's the longest running asset, never been hacked, runs very well, and is a great store of value. So it's been here. It's one of the strongest assets you can possibly have. So why not look at just that in terms of the traditional markets, the stock market? And so I want to go over top 9 companies really in terms of their Bitcoin holdings. And reason why I take these top 9 and not some other ones is because that they actually hold Bitcoins themselves. And why that's so important is, it's easy to be not easy, but it's relatively easy to be a company that says we're going to use blockchain technology. Somehow, somewhere, we're going to kind of institute this in our current business. Whether they do or they don't, that's a different story. But you can kind of put that narrative out there. So there are a variety of companies that can say they use the technology. But who actually owns crypto assets? You can look at the grayscales, all these trusts and whatnot. But they do things a little bit differently. They charge a premium. You can also get things on a discount. But, for me, if you're going to do that, I think you should own Bitcoin itself. Of course, everything I'm saying, it's not financial advice. It's my opinion on things. I just kind of want to run through and kind of tell you my mindset and why it's important actually to own these. Because if you can see that these companies own an asset like Bitcoin, then there must be something valuable to it. And so you need to kind of get your way in there. And if this is your bridge, finding things in the stock market that gives you exposure to Bitcoin to begin with, and then as you get comfortable, then you can roll out into the actual crypto market itself, that's fine. For me, I just want to push you guys, educate you guys a little bit, and get you going on your own research. So let's jump in here and to kind of see, if you wanted exposure in the traditional markets, in the stock market, which companies would you go after? So I kind of pulled up here. This is the number of Bitcoin by public companies. So how much do they have on their balance sheets? And so if you guys aren't familiar with any of this, it's okay. We're just going to run through it. And the reason why I picked these, because they're public companies, which means they're transparent, or as transparent as you could get anyway in the traditional market, right? And they have, for some of these, they have businesses that exist prior to Bitcoin, prior to them buying any Bitcoin. And so I want to establish some of them being that they were relevant businesses before buying Bitcoin. Their valuation, their popularity, while it may have increased since buying Bitcoin, they were still viable businesses beforehand. So let's get into it. So number 1, Microstrategy. I don't know if you guys have heard of a Microstrategy CEO named Michael Saylor. Very, very popular these days. Pretty much the figurehead of Bitcoin now, in terms of pushing it to public companies and pushing it to mainstream investors. And so this company here is really before Bitcoin, is a business-to-business type platform. And I have it here just on their website alone. They're all about enterprise analytics. So just making tools and instruments that, make businesses more efficient through their dashboards, through analytics, intelligence, all that incorporated. Okay, so this was their business before. And what's amazing is they actually started just now putting Bitcoin for corporations on here. So he really pushes Bitcoin and how corporations need to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheets as opposed to cash, because Bitcoin appreciates and cash will depreciate over time, or the value of cash will depreciate over time. And so I just want to show real quick, this is not a stock channel or anything like that, but I just want to show that these were real businesses before buying any Bitcoin. Because sometimes people will be like, all right, yeah, they're on the hype train now, so they bought some, and that's why their company is viable. No. These were legitimate companies before buying Bitcoin. So we're going to go in here, and we're just going to see, and I'm going to do 2019, because they didn't buy anything in 2019. It all came in 2020 and afterwards for all of these companies, okay? Well, the public companies that were business to business anyway, like Microstrategy. So we look here, we have almost, and these numbers here are in thousands, so you're going to add 3 zeros to all these figures. So we're looking at almost $500 million in revenue pre-Bitcoin. Okay, that's 2019. So what does that mean in terms of cash? So they had about $50 million on the books, just sitting there in free cash. Okay, so this is a massive company. That's, I think he's been over 20 years. He's been Michael Saylor has been a CEO of this same company. So it's been in business for a long time. It's being used by very, very many businesses. And it's, as you can see, just from the revenue and the cash flow, it generates money. Okay, and this was before Bitcoin. So he saw a bunch of cash sitting on the sidelines. He saw that the value of that cash was going to depreciate over time, and he wanted to find an instrument that was going to not only store the value, the current value, but appreciate over time for him and all the holders of MicroStrategy. So if you look here, he owns 121,000 Bitcoin. Okay, 121,000. And really, I want to stress as well, as big as these companies are, you guys can see here that the public companies Bitcoin dominant. So what's the percentage of Bitcoin that's owned by these big corporations? As much as they own, all right, 121,000, as much as MicroStrategy owns, we're still looking at less than 1.5% of the total supply. That's phenomenal. Phenomenal. Okay, MicroStrategy alone is just 0.5. So a big chunk of that 1%, or 1.14% is MicroStrategy, but still a very small percentage with respect to the total supply. Okay, so next one, Tesla. I'm sure everyone has heard of Tesla, right? EVs, electrical vehicles is what they do. But I wanted to kind of take a look and see, well, where were they before Bitcoin? They have about $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin that they had purchased last year, so 2021. And so here we're looking at $24 billion in revenue, okay? And they had about 968, just under 970 million in cash pre-Bitcoin, okay? So again, viable business, especially now as it become profitable, right? So they're looking also as to, well, and you know, obviously Elon Musk, the CEO, very smart, very intelligent person. So you got to start asking this. I always say in these videos, you got to start asking yourself questions. Why would these intelligent men who run perfectly viable businesses that are generating cash, you know, and they're profitable, they don't need to do anything, why would they start buying Bitcoin and holding that and keep that on their balance sheet? So that's something you guys got to start asking yourself. Okay, so that would be Tesla. And Square here, we're going to get back to Galaxy Digital Holdings, but Square, many people have heard of as well. They have the #1 app in the App Store, so their cash app, all right? And they did, and before any, you know, all this noise about Bitcoin, which was 2020, so 2019, end of 2019, they did $4 billion in revenue, and they had about $403 million in cash. So again, another heavy player, lots of money on the sidelines. Why would they pick Bitcoin? Why would they choose to swap their cash for Bitcoin? Right? It's got to make sense somewhere, right? Somehow. So you got to ask yourself that. So those are the top three there: Microstrategy, Tesla, or top four is and Square. But top three that you may have heard of, or people around you may have spoken about before. And going through the rest of them, right? We're just looking at just before we move on to the next one. So Tesla here, they own 48,000 Bitcoin, and Square here owns 8,000 Bitcoin. Okay, very, very small percentages of the total supply. Very small. So I want to highlight that as much money they put in, as small as their percentage is, there's still so much that us as retailers can also purchase now, right? So sometimes it seems like, oh my God, what's $100 Bitcoin going to do for me, or $500? It doesn't matter. You just keep accumulating as much as you can. If they're putting in this much money, right, where they're putting in, let's see here. So Tesla here, 1.5 billion, but it only adds up to 0.22% of the Bitcoin supply. You would think it would be a lot higher. So if they think even having just that much of a percentage is valuable, then for us as retailers, as regular investors, any percentage of Bitcoin should be captured as much as we can. Again, not financial advice, but based on what these public companies are doing, what the smart, intelligent CEOs are kind of maneuvering towards, and the decisions that they're making, you know, kind of adds up, right? So just kind of see it, ask yourself, why are they doing it? Why would it be important? And maybe that leads you down the path of, hey, maybe I need to kind of do more research and dip my toe into it where I can. The other companies here, so Galaxy Digital Holdings, Galaxy Digital Holdings is a big one. They own about 16,000 Bitcoin. They're more of a financial services where they bridge crypto and institutional investing. So it's kind of like the financial services for the big money, right? So big money's scared to come in or not sure where it's going to go or how to even maneuver in the space. Galaxy Digital will sit in the middle and help them out and do certain things. So they have a decent size, and they're on the Toronto Stock Exchange. MicroStrategy and Tesla on the NASDAQ. Square is also on the NASDAQ. And so Marathon, Hut 8 Mining, and Riot Blockchain. All of these are mining companies, okay, and all are listed on, well, Hut 8 is on Toronto Stock Exchange, but Marathon and Riot here on the NASDAQ. So they're just mining companies. They mine the Bitcoin directly. And what's interesting with these miners, before miners would actually have to sell their Bitcoin in order to raise some money to actually fund their operations. They no longer have to do that, right? So they're actually not selling any of their Bitcoin off. So they're holding the Bitcoin and they're taking loans against that Bitcoin to actually fund in fiat money, and they're actually using that fiat money to run their operations. So instead of you're getting a flood of Bitcoin on the market or in the market, right? So instead of increasing the supply by necessity, that's not happening anymore. So now you're getting that supply shrinking. And as they mine and collect more and more and less for us to collect, it's going to raise the price over time. Okay, that's the thought process there. So really big concept there is, well, Bitcoin miners used to have to sell to get money to fund their operations. But now they don't, which means there's less Bitcoin going to be in supply for you and I to purchase. Okay? And then the ones here that are left out are Coinbase, very, very popular exchange, very prominent exchange in terms of you can facilitate transactions for cryptocurrencies. Voyager Digital is similar in fashion. It's kind of an up-and-comer, and it's making waves throughout the scene as well, and we'll branch out eventually as well into other products. But right now, that's kind of what they're known for, is a cryptocurrency exchange. And next on here, that's on the Japanese market there. That's in the Japanese market. So kind of leave that one alone. That's not something I participate in or know too much about. So we'll kind of leave that one alone. So out of the top 10, 9 of them here are publicly traded companies that you have access to if you're in North America, right? So NASDAQ, Toronto Stock Exchange, right? That's kind of where you're looking at to get some exposure. There are some other companies. I mean, the list kind of goes on. There are more of them, but those are really the big ones. And so if you're looking for any exposure, but you're unsure how to get there into crypto, this is one method of doing that. Okay, I mentioned Grayscale. There are some trusts and things like that you can do. But if you want just simple straight stocks, these are some options that you guys can look into. All right, guys, hopefully that pushes you into kind of doing your own research and you know, looking at different ways of getting exposure to crypto if you're still uncomfortable. Remember, tomorrow never comes. Get in there, jump in the game, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one, guys.